Hey everyone, thanks for joining today. If you're tuning in, this is going to be an interesting real-time talk that's been the talk of the town. We're diving into the shocking details surrounding the Interpol rejection of Nigeria's extradition request for Nnamdi Kanu, and I promise it's a real twist. Please do well to subscribe to this channel, like the video and share so that it will go viral. Thank you. Let's get straight to it. Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has been at the center of a storm that many believe is bigger than just his legal troubles. Kanu has been charged with serious offenses like terrorism, unlawful possession of firearms, and treason. He was initially arrested in 2015 but skipped bail in 2017, leaving the country to seek refuge abroad. For years, he became a political figure seen by many as a symbol of resistance, and to others, as a threat to national security. Now, let's talk about what happened in 2021. Nigeria's government was determined to bring him back, but not through normal legal means. Nigeria's authorities have claimed that Kanu was arrested through Interpol's cooperation and was swiftly brought back. But this is where things get tricky. In June 2021, the Nigerian government announced that Kanu had been arrested outside Nigeria and extradited back to face charges. However, many people raised questions about whether the extradition process was legal. They argued that what really happened wasn't a normal legal extradition. It looked like what's called an extraordinary rendition. That's when someone is forcibly returned to a country without going through the formal process, without the usual legal protocols in place. And that's where Interpol comes in. Interpol, the International Criminal Police Organization, helps countries cooperate in criminal matters, but they must follow the law. And the real shocker? Interpol allegedly refused to be involved in the process that saw Kanu's return. In fact, they publicly distanced themselves from it, stating that they weren't involved in the arrest. This caused a huge uproar. For many, this looked like Nigeria was acting unilaterally, disregarding the international rules of extradition. Interpol's rejection or distancing of Nigeria's actions has raised a lot of questions. Was Nigeria's extradition of Kanu really legal? Was there due process, or was the law bent just to bring him back? And why would Interpol, an international body that promotes cooperation, stay silent or even refuse to back Nigeria? Let's think about it. For Nigeria, the move to bring Kanu back seemed necessary. The government believes Kanu is a threat to national security and that his actions have incited violence and unrest. The Biafra issue is sensitive, and they wanted him back, not just for justice, but to send a message. But the way they did it, it's raised eyebrows. A lot of people both in Nigeria and abroad see it as an abuse of power. So, what does this mean for Interpol and Nigeria's credibility? Well, Interpol as an organization can't afford to be seen as backing illegal actions. If they allowed Nigeria to bypass extradition protocols, they'd be setting a dangerous precedent for international law. They might lose the trust of other nations who rely on them for legitimate extradition requests. That could hurt international cooperation on crime, especially if other countries start thinking they can just bypass laws like this. Now, what does it mean for the people of Nigeria and for Kanu? For many, this isn't just about the legalities, it's about fairness. Was Kanu treated fairly? Should the government be allowed to simply take matters into their own hands when they think it's for the good of the country? There are people who believe that this was a political move, a way for the Nigerian government to shut down calls for Biafran independence by going after its most vocal leader. And for Kanu's supporters, this isn't just about his legal case, it's a human rights issue. They see him as a political prisoner, someone who was kidnapped from another country and brought back illegally. This case could end up in court, and the decision could have wide-reaching consequences, not just for Kanu, but for how other countries view Nigeria's respect for international law. And then there's the bigger picture. This case isn't just about Kanu, it's about secessionist movements in Africa. There are people in other parts of Nigeria and other countries in Africa pushing for independence. Kanu's case sets a precedent. If Nigeria can just bypass legal systems to arrest and return someone, what does that mean for other movements? Should governments in Africa be allowed to operate outside international law in the name of national security? These are tough questions, and right now the world is watching how Nigeria handles this. For Nigeria, this is more than just a legal battle. It's a test of how they handle the pressures of global politics, legal norms, and ethnic tensions. The southeast region of Nigeria, which is where Kanu comes from, has always had tensions with the government. The Biafran movement has been a thorn in Nigeria's side for decades, and this case has the potential to escalate things. People in the southeast are watching, and they feel like the government has overstepped using the legal system as a tool of political repression. This could make things worse for the Nigerian government as it risks alienating an entire region. But here's the other side of it. The government might argue that they have the responsibility to keep the country safe. If Kanu was a leader of a group calling for secession, using violence or promoting terrorism, then his actions are a threat to national unity. The government believes they had no choice but to act fast and perhaps break some legal norms to get him back. For them, national security might outweigh international legal standards. But is that justification enough? The world is asking that right now. So, where do we go from here? Will this case strengthen Nigeria's position in international law, or will it damage its credibility? What will be the fallout from this situation, both domestically and internationally? Can we trust that the international community will hold Nigeria accountable if it violated extradition laws? And finally, what happens to Nnamdi Kanu now? Is he really a prisoner of war, or will he be treated as a terrorist? His case could affect other African nations and their dealings with international law. If other countries see Nigeria bending the law to get their way, they might decide to do the same thing. This could set off a domino effect where countries with unpopular leaders begin bypassing legal norms and abusing the international system for their own gain. And let's not forget the people on the ground. This case has sparked massive protests. Thousands of people support Kanu's call for Biafra to become its own nation. They're angry that the Nigerian government is cracking down on what they believe is a just cause. These people are speaking out, and they're doing so with more force than ever before. Could this trial spark an even bigger political crisis? We're seeing how fragile the situation is. If Kanu's trial doesn't go smoothly, or if the legal process is seen as a sham, the government could lose control over more than just one case. It could lose control over a region. It could lose the trust of its people. And that's something the government will have to consider in the months ahead. All right, let's continue the discussion. Now, let's take a deeper look at the political impact. If Kanu's trial doesn't play out fairly, or if the public perceives that his extradition wasn't done legally, we might see an even bigger backlash from those who support him. These groups believe that the Nigerian government is using this case to silence dissent and crush any movements that challenge their power. This is a pivotal moment, and it could lead to more unrest, not just in the southeast, but across the entire country. Now, if we zoom out a little bit, the international dimension of this case is just as important. Nigeria's relationship with other countries, especially within the African Union, could come into question. Other nations may begin to question whether they can trust Nigeria to respect legal processes and human rights if they are willing to bypass international law in Kanu's case. This could affect not only extraditions, but also foreign relations, trade, and diplomatic negotiations. But it's also important to understand the power dynamics at play. Nigeria is a major regional power in West Africa. Its actions have a ripple effect across the continent. So, if Nigeria is seen as undermining the rule of law to bring back Kanu, it could embolden other countries to do the same thing when they want to extradite or silence their own dissenters. That's why the outcome of this case is bigger than just one person. It could set a dangerous precedent for how political prisoners are handled in the future. And for the rest of the world watching, the Kanu case is another reminder of how complex international law can be when it comes to political issues. The extradition process isn't just about criminals. It's about how countries navigate political movements, human rights, and the enforcement of international law. When one country steps outside these boundaries, it puts all of these systems at risk. But let's be real for a moment. Kanu's supporters believe that he's a victim of a political witch hunt. They argue that his call for Biafran independence is legitimate, and they see his arrest as part of a bigger plot to suppress their voice. They're not just rallying for Kanu. They're rallying for their right to be heard, for their culture to be respected, and for their political aspirations to be taken seriously. In their eyes, the fight for Biafra is about more than just Kanu. It's about the future of an entire people. On the other hand, Nigeria's government insists that Kanu is a threat to national unity. They see him as an instigator of violence, someone who has used his platform to stir up ethnic tensions and create instability. They argue that his return is necessary for justice, and that the government is doing what it needs to do to protect the nation from further chaos. For them, Kanu is not a hero or martyr. He is a criminal that needs to face justice. And there's no question that the situation is volatile. The Southeast region, Kanu's stronghold, has seen protests. And there's a growing sense of frustration with the central government. The IPOB movement has rallied thousands, if not millions, to its cause. And while not everyone in the region supports Kanu's methods, the desire for more political autonomy is undeniable. The Biafran issue isn't going away anytime soon. And as long as these political and ethnic divides persist, the tension will continue to simmer. What's next? Well, the legal process will play a big role. If Kanu's trial is perceived as a political move, or if the courts show bias, we can expect more unrest. His supporters may take to the streets, and there could be more calls for international intervention. This isn't just a local issue. The entire international community is watching. And if Nigeria fails to address the human rights concerns surrounding Kanu's return and trial, it could lead to global condemnation. But it's not just about politics, it's also about fairness. The question on everyone's mind is whether Kanu will get a fair trial. He's facing serious charges, but for many, the real issue is the manner in which he was brought back to Nigeria. Was he subjected to torture? Did he have access to legal counsel? Was the entire extradition process done according to the law? These are questions that need to be answered, and the world is waiting to see how Nigeria responds. And let's not forget about the bigger implications for Nigerian politics. This case has already highlighted the deep divisions in the country. The government is fighting to hold the country together, while groups like IPOB are pushing for greater autonomy. This case is a snapshot of a broader struggle for power, identity, and control. How the government handles this situation could either deepen the rift or begin to heal it. At the end of the day, the Kanu case is about more than just one man. It's about the future of Nigeria, the future of the Biafran people, and the future of how international law is applied when politics are involved. Will Nigeria be able to respect the legal process and international norms, or will this case be a turning point in how political dissidents are treated? It's a story that is far from over, and it's one that will shape the future of the nation for years to come. So, if you're watching this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Let's keep the conversation going. I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Nigeria had the right to bypass international law? Was it fair to extradite Kanu like that? How will this affect the future of secessionist movements in Africa? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Stay tuned for more updates and keep following this story. It's one that's going to shape the future of Nigeria and Africa as a whole.